Okay, welcome back to episode 4 of the pad printing channel here. We're going to talk today about pre-treating parts and trying to figure out if you need to or not. I get a lot of phone calls about what ink to use on, and whether the ink choice affects whether you need to pre-treat a part or not. And we're talking about standard stuff, plastics here, not any really oddball materials right now, but I'm going to talk about basic stuff. Your issues with polypropylene, polyethylene, things like that, versus ABS, styrene, PC ABS blends, things like that that you see all the time. So there are 20 different ink choices that we can give you for any particular material. 2-component epoxies, different single component inks that work well on styrene, maybe add a hardener, all different things. All of that is based on the resin system attacking the plastic and attaching itself to the plastic in a way that passes your criteria. But the first step before you even choose an ink is to decide whether or not the surface itself needs to be pre-treated. So you get a lot of calls saying, I've got a polypropylene, I've got a part, I'm not sure if it needs to be pre-treated. You ask what the plastic is, maybe it's polypropylene, maybe it's not sure where the part came from. Or it's polypropylene right out of the gate, and you're just hoping you get around flame treating it or corona treating it or chemical wiping it. It's really not going to happen. People claim to have inks that work like that, but we pretty much come to the conclusion that they work sometimes if your criteria is not so high. So anyway, here's a good example. I've got a white polypropylene bucket that we use to put our inks into. And how do you test this? Trent, does this work? How do I know? How can I check? Do I print it and test print it? What do I do? Well, what you do is you buy a set of Dyne pens, and Dyne checks your Dyne level is your surface energy level on the part, and there's all sorts of things about it that you can read in detail. However, the general rule of thumb is you need to be over 38 to get 38 Dyne in order to get good adhesion of ink onto the part. It's one thing to get transfer onto it, but it's another thing to get the stick afterwards. So you got to be over 38 as a minimum. 40 is pretty good. Anything over 42 is great. And it's essentially just how the surface wets out. So here is something that I'm going to try. This is a polypropylene part with a 40 Dyne pen. And note how it just disappears. Like that. Now, I'll take another piece that is a polycarbonate blend, PC ABS blend, do the same thing, and look, it stays. So this part doesn't need to be pre-treated, then we can move on to the next step of choosing an ink. This part, however, does need to be pre-treated. And to show you just a result of what we can do and whether you need to pre-treat something or not, I'm going to just use the most basic thing, chemical wipe. Little P2 primer from Marabou. We're a distributor for them. Not a lot of primer used in the U.S. We don't like to sit around in gas masks and do stuff. You end up using flame or Corona most of the time. Just wipe a little bit on though, just for fun, and see what happens here. So, spot. Okay, so right here, I'm going to wipe this side with it, and this would be obviously quicker if I was using a flame treater. But same result, which is changing the surface energy so that the ink will stick. And now I'm just going to do smiley face. And there's the difference between a chemical wipe on this side and no wipe on that side. This one, the ink's never going to stick. This one, if you choose the right ink, the ink will stick. So give us a call, buy some pens, and then you'll be able to do this in the field, and you'll have a sense of whether anything's going to work or not. These things are magical for you. If you are set up and you're corona treating already right now, you want some of these so you can test your application as you go to make sure that the head's set to the right height, that the flame treater's set to the right height. So you definitely want a set of these. So cheap, give us a call. Talk to you later.